What's something you saw as a kid that looked harmless, but if you witnessed it now it would horrify you?
Getting chased by a hippo while in a small motorboat. I was only like 8 at the time, but I thought it was very fun. Meanwhile, my parents were basically shitting their pants.
Hippos are utterly terrifying. I would have died of fright.
When I was a kid, I would go fishing with my dad quite often in the middle of the woods. One time, we heard what sounded like a woman scream. It spooked me, but not terrified, mostly just confused me. My dad was like, "You know what, I am starving. Let's head home." And we left faster than normal, but he acted normal. Years later, we were reminiscing about all the adventures in the woods, and I mentioned the weird scream, and he said, "Oh, yeah, that was a mountain lion." As soon as I hears the scream, I looked up and saw it looking directly at you from the bank. That's why we got the hell out of Dodge. I had no clue.
That's a smart dad, haha, big props to him.
I was about 8 years old and I walked into a public bathroom and I saw 2 people holding small spoons slumped in the corner. I remember telling my mother afterwards and she told me they were tired after eating birthday cake. Edit, thanks for the gold. My dad had to eventually tell me the truth about heroin because I wouldn't shut up and was horrified that people would be eating cake on the dirty bathroom floor.
That made me laugh, but it's not funny.
It's actually a perfect response, I think.
Bless your mom for thinking of something else at all.
That's some quick thinking by your mom.
When I was in 6th grade, a girl showed up to school with a Tinkerbell tattoo on her hip. In our child brains, we found this very mature and grown up that her parents had let a family member tattoo her. Looking back at it now, it's concerning that anyone would sign off on a tattoo for a 10/11-year-old.
Damn, that's crazy. Also, the fact that she could sit through all of that pain as a kid. Also, wouldn't it horribly morph as she grew?
When I was about 4 years old, I grabbed an Australian brown snake and swung it around like a lasso. The second most venomous land snake. A bite from one of these is a certain death sentence for a child.
True Australian.
Nice to meet you, Hercules.
Centrifugal saved you our life.
Until the age of 12, my grandma had custody of me. I used to sleep with her, and she slept with a baseball bat next to her bed. It wasn't until I was much older that I realized she did it. Dad's friends wouldn't be able to do anything to me. Dad was a drug addict and drunk, and when he was out of prison, he had all kinds of people in and out of the house. You would never know what would be missing the next day. Often my Nintendo, sad face. She did everything she could to protect me from God knows who/what, and I had zero clue.
Your grandma is a hero.
The hero we all need and love. If your grandma is still around, go love the crap out of her.
Bless her. What a lady.
Gold for you and your fucking badass amazing grandma.
Your dad was an ass and your grandmother was a saint.
A male classmate of mine, age 10, bragged about having sex. He seemed to enjoy it. Now I realize he was probably being abused, but back then I just thought he was bragging.
We had a swimming pool at our school and had swimming lessons. When we were 8-9 years old, my class was getting changed, and as my classmate undressed, she said, "I'm not a virgin, I've had sex," completely unprompted. Our teacher sent her to the head teacher's office, and she got in trouble for lying. She came back to our classroom later that day in complete floods of tears, absolutely inconsolable. At the time I didn't think anything of it. Nothing bad had ever happened to me in my life when I was 9. I didn't even have the concept of adults can sexually abuse children. But now I think the fact that she made this statement randomly, unprompted, whilst we were removing our clothes to go swimming, and the fact she was so inconsolable after getting in trouble, points to the fact that something was going on. It breaks my heart that the teachers didn't take it further or try and have it investigated. I told my mum years later she's worked with abused children, and she said this was a definite red flag.
Oh wow. That's heartbreaking.
Alternatively, he could have just had an older brother or been around older boys and heard them bragging about that, so he starts bragging about it too, because in his mind bragging about it equals cool. Boys like to model their behavior off of older boys without necessarily understanding the concepts involved with what they're talking about. It's definitely a red flag though.
Not as bad, but slightly related. I was probably 12 and a friend's older brother told us boys that a girl at a party was a slut. It was a party with a bunch of families, and me, being a complete idiot, repeated it in front of the adults. I got beat and grounded, and 30 years later I still hope the girl doesn't remember it, think poorly of it, and doesn't have any issues because of an idiot kid blurting out what someone else said. Also, she was also 12 and probably very nice.
You just unlocked a memory for me. The first friend I made in middle school was a year older than me. I was 11, she was 12, and she bragged openly about not being a virgin, and that her dad had sex with her starting when she was 3 or 4. She seemed very proud of it, and I remember knowing that was not a good thing, but really understanding exactly how horrible it was. Looking back as an adult, I am so sad for her.
My town swim instructor would always make fun of the boys, anywhere from ages 6 to 13 or so, for wanting to change in the stalls, and not out in the main changing room area where he was with his clipboard. He was eventually arrested when a computer tech found child porn on his laptop when he took it in for some repairs, and thanks to the trial we learned that he was filming us with a little camera attached to his clipboard. Also, that he had been molesting a disabled boy that was in his care.
What the fuck?
What a sicko.
Where's that bat-wielding grandma? We need her help.
It was when my nanny and I role-played to be in a relationship, LMAO, an abusive relationship, mind you. I was 8 at that time. She'd kiss me on the lips and I'd sit on her lap, and it's really creeping me out now that I think about it.
I also got molested by my babysitter and didn't realize that that was what it was until I was a legal adult. That's some unresolved trauma that I don't want to deal with.
Same, sad face. I actually never realized what was being done to me. Groping disguised as hugs, kisses on the lips, what seemed as normal comments turned out to be double meaning, etc., until a few months ago when my mom asked me about the babysitter. She knew nothing.
I'm so sorry you had to go through this. That's so gross. I hope you're okay.
My mom holding what I thought to be sugar cubes and was mad because she didn't give me any after returning to the car with them at an unknown sketchy trailer where she left me in the car alone for seemed like an hour. I had no sense of time as a child. It was drugs.
I was wondering who else has drug memories that only made sense later. I can honestly say my children have probably only seen someone smoking crack out a light bulb, tying off, or cooking on a spoon and lighter a few/no times in their short lives. I saw one of those probably every day and thought nothing of it. It never even registered it as unusual or worthy of note. Early 90s NYC was something else. I hope you and your family are well and safe today. That's a very scary memory for a little child to have.